So I think there's a little bit of a boiling frog syndrome in this business, which is the number of channels and the number of touch points keeps going up slowly, right? And sometimes there's a disruption and suddenly the number of channels just jumps up. So the web was one example where there was a big disruption. Social was another big disruption. Mobile is another big disruption, right? And it's not just linear, because what you get is a lot of intersection of these different trends. So now you got the devices, you got the different channels, and you got customer preferences. And so the intersection of all this becomes a sort of it's almost a multiplicative effect, right? And businesses now, one thing I keep hearing from our customers and prospects is that they just cannot fix one thing at a time anymore. So they cannot go and, oh, I got a problem with my interactions on the web, so I'm going to put a tool on the web. Or tomorrow, oh, there's a problem in social, so I'm going to go fix that. They need a way where they can, yes, they have to do it one at a time, but they can do it systematically on the same platform. So I know platform is a very overused word, but in this case, it's a very important concept. And so I think businesses are getting around to that notion that they cannot just solve point problems. They have to solve it in a platform-oriented way. I think that's a big difference. I think the first, I'd say two big challenges. One is, how do you decide what to do? Because there's so many options, right? You could boil the ocean. And we've had customers who have tried to take that approach of saying, oh, we're going to create this massive project. Everything's going to be integrated in the first day. And the first day just doesn't come because it takes too long. So that's the first thing. Is how do you decide what's relevant for your business, for your consumer personas that you are serving, and segmenting that and figuring out the most important one. So giving you an example, we have 2 banks as our clients. One bank services somewhat older clients. The other one serves somewhat younger clients. And so it's really different in the way they would go about prioritizing what to do in the whole multi-channel engagement space. And that's our job and the job of some of the consulting organizations to kind of help them define the priorities that are synchronized with the personas they're serving. So that's one. The second thing is, and you can make horrible mistakes in that, because you could get all excited about social, for instance, right? And say, oh yeah, we got to do social. But that's not the most important thing for you, because the persona you're serving is not getting into social today, right? So it's critical to understand the consumer, the customer persona, and then align your priorities. The second thing is, how much of this is going to be done internally, and how much can be done by experts and providers. And what I mean by that is the whole cloud versus non-cloud. At a simple level, that's a big issue. And there are pros and cons to both. What we find is that businesses that are focused on the objectives from a business-oriented standpoint, so if they're looking at, hey, I need to improve my net promoter scores, or I need to make sure that my conversion rates go up on the website, or I need to make sure my total cost of service is better managed, they will tend to do more of the cloud-oriented or outsourced models, whereas the ones that have more an inside-out approach, which says, oh, we're going to integrate all this in an IT-oriented way, they'll take more of an in-house approach. And the answer is not easy. We have a client who came to us about 2 years ago. This is a big consumer electronics company. And they had 4 different point products. One for web self-service, one for social, one for web chat, and one for email management. Right? This is all customer facing. And they wanted to make sure that they could now come up with one solution that would do everything. They could have just spent more money integrating the pieces together, but that, while it seems like a good idea in the short term, over time the rate of innovation suffers, because you're spending all your energy and money on connecting things rather than focusing on the end user experience, which is more the application layer. So I think they made a good call at that point. So eGain, we competed along with others and we won the opportunity, and now all those 4-point products are gone. Now, It doesn't mean that all those four channels or capabilities were turned on at the same time, right? They were turned on somewhat sequentially. But the fact that you would have that core platform, so you don't have to spend money integrating the next new point app that comes, that's, to me, that is the key, is to not try to integrate point applications. Because if you try to do that, you just get caught in the number of integrations that you have to constantly maintain, and that's too expensive. From a cultural point of view, I think brands have to figure out how to differentiate the experience that they are delivering, right? So companies have done a very good job of building brands around marketing. So it's marketing-driven brand building is what most companies work with. And then followed by products that align with the brand. The experience that surrounds the product, that is not very often the basis of differentiation and brand building. There are a few companies that do that well, and they seem to have incredible success compared to some of the peers. So for instance, Virgin does a very good job of that, right? They sell phones, everyone sells phones. They have a virtual network, they don't even own their own network. But the experience they layer around that is what people seem to gravitate toward, and the promise and the trust that they build. So I think for brands, that's the big question, is how do they morph from being a marketing-driven brand building to more of living the experience that they are delivering to their customers. I think that depends on the nature of the industry and the products. So one extreme example and an obvious one is Apple, right? And you can see the trend even in that space. When you build iconic products that the customers just love for whatever reason, then service may not be as important. But over time, it's very hard to keep hitting these sixes, home runs, whatever you want to call it, all the time. So competitors will catch up. And when they catch up, the experience will become important. And so the more commoditized the industry, the more important the experience. And most industries nowadays, if you look around, are somewhat commoditized. So that's the challenge. So like I said earlier, the first thing let's say you're a business leader and you are looking at customer engagement as an area that you want to improve in your company. I think it's a few years ago, I had seen this very interesting article in Harvard Business Review around, this was more around supply chain and manufacturing, but the concept is somewhat similar. And the title of the article was, "Staple Yourself to a Customer Order." That was the title of the article. And it's one of those bestseller articles that keeps getting reprinted. And the idea was, staple yourself literally to an order that a customer places, and watch how that order gets treated in your organization, jumping from desk to desk and going through functions, and sits in someone's outbox for a while, then goes, gets reviewed 3 times instead of getting done once. I think this is somewhat similar to what businesses want to be able to do on the customer engagement side, is try to get a sense of what your customer is going through on a daily basis. And you can do voice of customer analysis and all that to get a feel for it. But the easiest thing is just to kind of eat your own dog food, right? And you very quickly figure out that your apps and your social presence and your web, I'm not saying always, but many a times are disconnected. So connecting all of them, I think, is the first order of business. Once you connect them, then you can figure out how to innovate on them. But consistency is the first thing that you have to get to, and then you can create differentiation after that. So if people are looking at how to prioritize their approach around engagement, then my biggest advice to them is stop digging a bigger hole for yourselves by creating more point solutions and implementing more point solutions. So think about how do you connect everything. So implement technology or process that connects everything, and once you have done that, then figure out how to